What's up? It's your boy Kevin to turn on this motherfucking YouTube shit. Wow, what the fuck?
What's up? It's your boy Kevin to turn on YouTube shit. Hey man, say man, we are lit, eh? Lit that teeth, man. Turn. Motherfucker, day. Showing outside, big crip in the gang. Showing outside shit, man. Free Palestine, free Congo. Russia do your thing in Texas. Stand the fuck up. Each day you may be a better version of yourself. Never let somebody bring you down outside back. Never let somebody tell you who you are. But also never put yourself in a position of alone. Let's stay humble. Let's get on revolution, on the movement. Keep y'all right first. Coming to the Black Hebrew Israelite as a real Jew. We out here. Alright. Boom. This motherfucker, day. Chillin' outside, big crip in the gang. Chillin' outside shit, man. Turn up. Bruh. People, man, but these diss tracks, man, they get mad crazy, bruh. You know what I'm saying? You know when people die and niggas make rap beef songs about it, man, like, it's tough, man. You know what I'm saying? Everybody lit until niggas start dropping like flies, bro. This shit crazy, man. Joolio, Foolio, the Killers, and Youngin Ace, man. Man, the Killers up, man. I guess they done caught everybody, and they still facing the death penalty. They said niggas falling out in court. The girl, she was pregnant, who was snitching. The other ones, they trying to fight for themselves, man. It's like they snitching on their own self, man. This shit is getting wild. So we have the whole drop in details. Make sure you like and subscribe. RIP to the people who lost their lives. It was kids, all types of people who lost their lives in this drama. Let's get into it. Boy, this Foolio shit getting tough. Y'all know they trying to get them niggas the death penalty, right? This shit getting crazy.
What do you know about Foolio? Let's start from there. I think he's a piece of shit.
New footage of one of
they say they trying to snitch on Youngin Ace.
Dropped, and it just blew the case wide open. Apparently, the suspect straight up snitched by reenacting the killing right there in the interrogation room.
He starts walking around the interview room, and then he starts going. Then he walks around, and then he does it again.
But here's the thing. He's not the only one talking to the feds. I've got the full breakdown, so let's get into it.
Ooh-wee.
The moment they told on themselves. The aftermath of Foolio's murder would prove that in 2024, there's nowhere to hide when the feds want you. The way these cats got snatched up told the whole story
they
about how
went to Guatemala.
Sean Gathright, Isaiah Chance, and Alicia Andrews were arrested on July 27, 2024 in Jacksonville. But the streets were watching how each one of these players got caught sleeping.
They was goofy. They was snitching on themselves the whole damn time.
Officers moving like they were conducting a military operation, not just arresting some corner boys. But real talk, Rashad Murphy's arrest on July 30th, 2024 was some next level drama. Homie had the whole Collins Preserve apartments on lockdown, with SWAT teams and gang units surrounding the complex like they were taking down a kingpin. When Murphy finally came out with his hands up after hours of negotiation, you could tell this wasn't just some regular hood. This was federal time territory. The most wanted man in Jacksonville had to be Davian Murphy, who managed to stay ghost for over 6 months before the streets finally closed down. Davian Murphy was arrested at a LaBelle Street apartment in Jacksonville after 6 months on the run, with assistance from JSO's gang unit and the U.S. Marshal Service. But what this fool did in that interrogation room afterward, man, that's some kind of move that'll have defense attorneys crying in their sleep. Picture this. The detectives step out thinking they're giving this man some time to think about his life choices. But instead of keeping his mouth shut like any seasoned street soldier would, Murphy decides to put on a whole performance. The detective who witnessed it broke it down in court like he was narrating a horror movie.
He puts out his arms like this, and it appears that he's brandishing a rifle with one hand extended and one, what I would consider the trigger finger. He starts walking around the interview room after he gets out of his seat, and this is after Detective Nieder and I had left, and he's holding it like this in front of him, and then he starts going, and then he walks around, and then he does it again. And he does it multiple times.
This clown really thought he was alone, reenacting the whole drill like he was bragging to his homies on the block. But those cameras don't lie. And now the prosecution got him on tape, basically confessing to the whole operation. In the hood, we call that telling on yourself. And this fool did it better than any snitch ever could. The legal game that followed showed just how deep this gang war really went. On October 7th, 2024, Florida State Attorney Susan S. Lopez filed a motion to seek the death penalty for Chance, Gathright, and Rashad Murphy, but not for Andrews. When the state starts talking death penalty, you know they ain't playing around. They're trying to send a message to every
That nigga
young
like
cat
one of
in
my
the streets
homeboys.
that
I
this
know I said that
lifestyle
before,
leads
but
to
that
one
nigga
place,
do, bro.
a lethal injection
Yeah, I
table.
need to
The
know.
fact that Alicia Andrews got excluded from the death penalty motion had everybody in the hood talking. This girl was pregnant when she got locked up, with a due date around
Oh, she
February
was pregnant?
2025. And
Damn.
Andrews' trial, originally scheduled for January 6, 2025, was postponed to August 18th, 2025, after she waived her right to a speedy trial. In the streets, when somebody's case gets special treatment like that, it usually means they're singing like a canary to the feds.
And Alicia Andrews, who's the girl who's pregnant, she asked for a speedy trial, but the other three waived. Right. Waived that. So yeah, I guess that means she's cooperating. Now, she was at the party, and there's a video of her.
But aside from Alicia and David, word on the street was that the rest of them had been cracking under pressure from day one.
One of the guys, when they arrested him, I guess he had a gun to his head. Did you hear this whole story?
Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he want to bring a Bible with him or something. These are all signs that things are going to go very bad for them.
When a street soldier starts talking about bringing Bibles to jail and acting suicidal, that's hood code for I'm about to fold under pressure. Real gangsters don't move like that. They take their L's and keep their mouths shut. But these young cats weren't built for the heat that comes with federal charges. What made this case different from regular street beef was the federal involvement. Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkaw emphasized the involvement of federal partners, including the FBI and ATF, in the investigation. When the Alphabet Boys step in, it's not just about solving one murder. They're trying to dismantle entire criminal organizations and send a message to every set in the city. The gang dynamics that started this whole bloody mess continued to play out in the courtroom like a real-life street movie. The investigation revealed that the murder was part of a long-standing feud between Jones's 6 Block gang and rival gangs ATK, Ace's Top Killers, and 1200. This wasn't just some random beef. This was a decade-long war that had already claimed dozens of lives in Jacksonville's most dangerous neighborhoods. The personal motivation behind the hit showed just how deep the street code really runs. Detectives testified that Murphy's family was personally affected by this rivalry, as his cousin Joe Rod Adams was killed in 2018, an incident referenced in Foolio's songs, which Murphy reportedly resented. In the hood, when somebody disrespects your dead homie in a rap song, that's considered the ultimate violation, the kind that can only be answered with blood. Even facing the death penalty, some of these cats still couldn't accept their fate. Isaiah Chance's May 2025 Instagram post showed he was still in denial about the mountain of evidence against him. He claimed that police had arrested the wrong people, alleging a lack of evidence such as shell casings or footage of the shooters exiting the vehicle. But anybody who's been watching this case knows that straight cap. The evidence against these boys is overwhelming. The technology game that caught these fools was something straight out of a sci-fi movie. The surveillance footage, license plate readers, and digital communications created a web that no street-smart criminal could escape. So now let's rewind, because to understand how it spiraled this far, we've got to go back to where it all began. When the ops came for the birthday boy. June 23rd, 2024. That's a date that's forever etched in Jacksonville history. The day when Charles Jones, better known to the streets as Joolio, Foolio, was supposed to be celebrating another year of life, but instead got his ticket punched by some stone-cold killers who thought
they been at them for a minute though.
Check this out. This ain't just another drill rapper getting caught slipping. This is about how the feds came through with that high-tech surveillance game and turned these wannabe hitmen's own moves against them. We're talking about a level of investigation that's straight out of a movie, where every text, every post, every digital breadcrumb these cats left behind became evidence that would have them facing the needle. See, to really understand how deep this whole situation goes, we gotta dive into the trenches of Jacksonville politics. This city's been a war zone for years, with Jacksonville reportedly having over 100 gangs, and the city's high poverty rates and systemic issues contributing to a culture where gang membership offers identity and protection. Foolio wasn't just rapping about the life, he was living it, breathing it, and unfortunately he died because of it. The young king was repping 6 Block Hard, also known as KTA, Kill Them All, and they've been beefing heavy with their ops ATK and 1200 for over a decade. This wasn't just territorial beef, this was personal. And the feud between 6 Block KTA and ATK 1200, described as spanning over a decade, resulted in dozens of murders on both sides. This wasn't no rap beef that stays on wax. Bodies been dropping left and right, and the streets been keeping score.
What's your mental, your mental life right now?
Well, of course I have my days. I have my on and off moments.
Foolio.
3 reasons why you should come with us.
My on and off moments.
Foolio's mama, Sandra Mays, she been knowing this day might come. Shorty had been through it herself, got hit with 8 shots in a related incident.
Yes,
She'd
she
been
did.
begging her son to get out the game, but Foolio was determined to keep it real with his music, no matter what the cost was gonna be. The night everything went left was supposed to be nothing but good vibes. Foolio was posting up on the gram heavy, letting the whole world know where he was celebrating his born day. He had been advertising his birthday celebrations on Instagram, including a pool party at an Airbnb and appearances at Tampa clubs. But what the homie didn't realize was that his enemies was watching every story, screenshotting
Watching the
every
whole
location,
damn
and
time.
plotting some diabolical
I
stuff.
think he
So
knew
they
it.
knew everywhere she was at. They knew when they were at the B&B. They knew when they got to Tampa.
The level of stalking these cats was doing was straight demonic, no cap. According to the
They said he
strict law
posted this shit
enforcement,
like 3
Isaiah
weeks
Chance
before
and
the
Alicia
event
Andrews
even
were caught on
happened.
camera following Foolio, with Chance using his phone to coordinate with gas.
I think he was tired of running.
This wasn't no spur-of-the-moment street justice. This was some calculated military-type operation with scouts, shooters, and coordinators all playing their positions. These grimy individuals had driven damn near 3 hours from Jacksonville to Tampa using 2 whips, a silver Chevy Cruze and a Chevy Impala. They rented an Airbnb, mapped out their routes, and were systematically tracking Foolio's every move while he was out here living his best life, completely unaware that death was lurking in the shadows.
You really think y'all gonna get away with it, huh?
Bro, they have the home surveillance video
God
of
was
one of the
helping Foolio
shooters
for a
where
long
he's
time,
packing
bro.
his car with the guns.
But here's where these amateur
Foolio
hours
was crashing out, man.
They left more evidence than a CSI episode. One of the suspects was captured on home surveillance video
Damn.
packing his car with guns. They found bullets in that kid's house. They found one of the murder weapons. They found bullets matching from the shooting scene. These cats really thought they were smooth, but they was moving sloppy as hell. The night of
Sloppy
June
as fuck,
22nd, going
true.
into the early morning of the 23rd, Foolio was turned up in Tampa, posting videos, dropping his location like it was hot, celebrating with the squad. After police shut down the Airbnb event, he relocated to the Holiday Inn and Home 2 Suites, where the shooting took place. This location switch was supposed to be a safety move, but it ended up being exactly what these killers needed to finish their dirty work. Right around 4:38 a.m., when Foolio and his people was getting ready to bounce from the hotel, these cowards struck with some serious precision. Surveillance footage from the hotel captured critical details of the attack, showing 3 shooters dressed in black, wearing masks, and armed with 2 semi-automatic rifles and a pistol. The assault was brutal and efficient, straight savage behavior. 3 masked gunmen fired over 30 rounds from a pistol, and 2 AOR-style rifles equipped with brass catchers. The fact they had brass catchers, those little devices that collect shell casings, showed these wasn't just some corner boys with stolen straps. These cats understood the importance of not leaving ballistic evidence laying around.
Driver! Open the car door! Let me see your hands! Step on out! Step on out! Look away! Back up to the sound of my voice! Yep. Stop right there. Lift your shirt up.
But what these killers didn't anticipate was the type of heat that was about to come down on them. They thought they had executed the perfect lick, but they seriously underestimated
They was all over the
resources
internet
that was about to be deployed
snitching on
to hunt
themselves,
them
bro.
down. This wasn't about to be just another unsolved homicide that gets filed away in some detective's cold case folder. The federal government was fixing to get involved, and when the alphabet boys step into the picture, the whole game changes.
Well, it's not like they're gonna get off for this.
No, they got so much evidence against them. Like, when you go through it, you can pretty much just, all right, pick a prison. Where do y'all want to go?
The amount of evidence these cats left behind was absolutely wild. As one law enforcement expert put it, investigators had so much dirt on these suspects that they could pretty much just pick a prison for where they wanted to send them. But collecting all that evidence, analyzing it properly, and building a case that would stick required the type of resources and expertise that only federal agencies could bring to the table. Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkall emphasized the involvement of federal partners, including the FBI and ATF, in the investigation. This wasn't just local boys in blue anymore. This was about to become a federal case involving interstate criminal activity, sophisticated weapons trafficking, and the kind of digital forensics that would expose every mistake these killers make. The suspects thought their ski masks, their brass catchers, and their well-coordinated escape plan would be enough to keep them free. They was dead wrong about that. What they didn't understand was that in 2024, there ain't no such thing as the perfect crime. Every digital footprint, every license plate reader hit, every cell phone ping, every Cash App transaction,
some of these niggas ain't never got caught for what they did.
Federal investigators can follow like bloodhounds.
They found bullets. They found bullets in that kid's house. They found murder weapons. They found bullets matching from the shooting scene. This kid kept collectibles from the case, like mad inside of his house.
What's really crazy is how one of these killers apparently kept collectibles from the murder scene. Investigators found bullets and weapons at his crib, like he was building his own little trophy case of evidence that would later be used to cook him in court. The story of how these killers got caught ain't just about solving a high-profile murder. It's about the evolution of criminal justice in the digital age.
You know, when you kill somebody in Minecraft, you keep the skull, you can keep the skull and shit.
That would seem like straight science fiction just a few years back. These suspects had planned what they thought was some Ocean's 11 type operation, but they was about to learn that they brought knife fighting tactics to a drone strike. As we gon' see, the federal investigation that followed would become a masterclass in modern law enforcement techniques, combining old school detective work with next level technology and unprecedented coordination between agencies that these killers never saw coming. Digital snitching. The final chapter of this whole saga is probably the most shocking part of all, not because of the violence itself, but because of how these killers' own attempts to be smart and calculated became the exact same evidence that federal investigators used to hunt them down and build an airtight case that got them facing the death penalty. In this digital age, every move you make creates evidence, and these suspects learned that lesson.
If you gonna make a hitman, you gotta disappear.
3 hours, 2 separate cars. They all got caught. Is there still one person at large? Yes, Davion Adams.
The scope of this conspiracy was absolutely wild. 5 individuals had driven approximately 3 hours from Jacksonville to Tampa, using multiple whips, coordinating through digital communications, and executing what they believed was some masterpiece criminal operation. They was wrong on every single count. The suspects was Isaiah Chance, 21, Alicia Andrews, 21, Sean Cathright, 18, Rashad Murphy, 30, and Davion Murphy, 27.
I mean, by the time they get out, bro, they'll be like, what, 35, 40?
Tracking Foolio
if they get past the death penalty. If they get past the death penalty, they'll be at least about 30 to 40. They're still young as fuck.
Someone may even get the death penalty. Well, here's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't know what people be thinking, but like, if that case doesn't tell you that it's almost impossible. If there's a popular series called How to Get Away with Murder, then you can't.
The digital evidence that federal investigators uncovered was so comprehensive that it read like a step-by-step manual on how not to commit a crime in the modern era. Every digital interaction had created evidence, and federal agencies had the tools to analyze all of it with surgical precision. The surveillance footage was just the tip of the iceberg. Videos from teasers and Truth 18 lounges, where Foolio made appearances, showed suspects Isaiah Chance and Alicia Andrews following him. At teasers, a Chevy Cruze linked to Chance and Andrews pulled up at 2:23 a.m., with Chance seen using a cell phone, likely coordinating with others. These cats had failed to account for just how deep surveillance had become in 2024. Modern whips, especially Teslas, are basically rolling security systems.
Yeah, they got tracking devices on them
constantly
bitches.
recording everything. Tesla surveillance video captured additional footage of the shooting, providing investigators with multiple angles and crystal clear footage that would have been impossible to obtain just a few years back.
The guys walk in and out of the house, their own Ring camera. They subpoenaed the evidence. The guy who had the motive to do it, he thought he was being smart.
Perhaps the most damning evidence came from these suspects' own security systems. One of the suspects was captured on home surveillance video packing his car with guns, essentially creating his own evidence of premeditation. Ring cameras and other home security systems had become so common that these cats apparently forgot they was constantly being recorded by their own equipment.
I don't want to get caught. I'm
1,000 ways to be a dumbass,
But he
bitch.
uses other people's phones, so their phones are there.
These suspects had apparently tried to be slick about avoiding digital detection, but their efforts backfired in the most spectacular way. Isaiah Chance and Alicia Andrews were identified as lookouts who tracked Jones to multiple locations in Tampa. Chance used Andrews' phone to communicate with the other suspects, sharing Jones's locations as they followed him. By using someone else's phone, they had simply created evidence on multiple devices instead of just one.
The girl is already talking. The girl basically said, hey, I wasn't going to use my phone here. I was just on the ride with my boyfriend.
Alicia Andrews admitted to being at the scene, but
She
claimed
ain't trying to get no death penalty, bitch. Or life,
Federal
nigga.
investigators had
You
access
got too
to a
much dick to
complete
be
digital
sucking.
footprint, which told a completely different story story than her weak claims of innocence. The license plate reader evidence was particularly devastating. License plate reader data helped track the two vehicles used by the suspects, a Chevy Cruze and a Chevrolet Impala, as they followed Foolio across Tampa. One suspect had even used his mama's whip, creating a direct family connection to the crime that investigators could easily trace.
His mama said, I had that car and my son had it.
Mama said she won't make nothing do with that bitch.
Bullet fragments and the barrel connected to another the bullet cases and the barrel connected to another shooting. The crazy thing about him, he's 18 years old.
The ballistic evidence revealed an even
Mama
more
said she ain't been send my ass to jail. Just take his dumb ass down. Mama told us to hold it down, head ass.
The 9mm case.
Shit, everybody, I think everybody parents giving up their kid when time when that shit happened.
Homicide and an October 2023 shooting that investigators believe was an attempt on Jones's life. The transformation of these young people from children to stone-cold killers was particularly heartbreaking. Federal investigators had found evidence showing Gathright as a young child, innocent and normal, which made his evolution into someone connected to multiple homicides all the more tragic and disturbing.
What happened in 5 years? That this guy's a stone-cold killer. Is connected to another homicide. This guy supposedly has done multiple shootings. Apparently killed somebody in May or March.
The federal investigation revealed that this wasn't just about one murder, but about a pattern of escalating violence involving very young perpetrators who had become killers before they was even old enough to drink legally. The streets had consumed these kids and turned them into something they probably never imagined they would become. The comprehensive nature of the evidence had opened up possibilities for much broader prosecutions that could shake up the entire Jacksonville gang scene. Federal agencies was now looking at RICO charges that could target whole gang organizations, not just the individual cats involved in this specific murder. The financial evidence was particularly damning, and these cats had left a digital paper trail that even a rookie investigator could follow. Rashad Murphy used his personal Cash App account to pay for the Airbnb in Tampa. Federal investigators had subpoenaed records from multiple financial platforms, creating a complete picture of how the conspiracy was funded and coordinated. The most incriminating evidence came from these suspects' own digital communications, and this is where they really snitched on themselves. A search warrant on Sean Gathright's iCloud account revealed incriminating messages sent from his phone on June 23rd after the shooting. One message, attributed to a Murphy, read, "I'm coming home, my thirst is quenched. Pop a bottle of Don Julio today." Murphy
got the Julio act of Foolio. Got the Julio act of Foolio. Insane.
Demonstrating not just their guilt, but their absolute coldness about what they had done. Jacksonville
got the Julio act of Foolio.
A known disrespectful phrase among gang members targeting Foolio. Even their attempt to be careful about finances had backfired spectacularly. When one suspect's whip didn't work, another had. Paid for expenses, creating additional financial trails that federal investigators could follow.
Got the Julio act of Foolio.
The transportation evidence was equally revealing and showed how these cats had underestimated modern surveillance. 3 suspects took an Uber back to Jacksonville, and the driver identified them. Uber maintains comprehensive records of every ride, including GPS tracking, payment information, and often photos of passengers. What these suspects thought was anonymous transportation became another piece of evidence linking them directly to the crime scene. The arrests themselves demonstrated the overwhelming nature of the evidence that federal investigators had compiled. Sean Gathright, Isaiah Chance, and Alicia Andrews were arrested in Jacksonville. Chance and Andrews were apprehended at a home, while Gathright was caught at a shopping center. The body camera footage from the arrest showed suspects who knew their situation was absolutely hopeless. Rashad Murphy was arrested after a dramatic standoff at a Jacksonville apartment complex. JSO's gang and SWAT units surrounded the complex, evacuated residents, and negotiated with Murphy for hours before he surrendered. The final arrest demonstrated the federal agency's long-term capabilities and determination. Davion Murphy, the 5th suspect, remained at large for over 6 months until he was apprehended at a Jacksonville apartment complex with assistance from JSO's gang unit and the U.S. Marshals Service. Even extended evasion was ultimately futile when federal resources was focused on tracking down a fugitive. The legal consequences that followed reflected the strength of the federal evidence and the seriousness of the charges. All 5 suspects were charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and for the shooters, attempted murder. The state of Florida has announced its intent to seek the death penalty against Chance, Gathright, and Rashad Murphy, but not Andrews, possibly indicating her cooperation. The federal investigation had exposed not just the details of this particular murder, but the broader ecosystem of gang violence, social media provocations, and street justice that had made it possible. These killers had used sophisticated planning and coordination, but they had been operating with an outdated understanding of how modern law enforcement works in the digital age. In 2024, federal agencies got access to digital. Forensics capabilities, interstate coordination, and analytical tools that make it virtually impossible to commit a complex crime and escape detection. Every phone call, every text message, every financial transaction, every location, Ping creates evidence that skilled investigators can analyze and use to build comprehensive cases that will hold up in court.
Yeah, that's a lot of that shit, nigga.
Remember Joolio, Foolio, but they'll also remember how his killers got caught, not by digital trails, but by turning on each other and snitching to the feds. Alright, thanks for rocking with me. If you thought this video was wild, make sure you peep those other bangers showing up on your screen right now. They're just as fire, no cap. I'll catch you in the next video. Stay woke.
Good video, man. The video before we watched was Rap Daily. This is Downtown. Shout out to Downtown and Rap Daily, the video before we watched. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he want to bring a Bible with him or some shit.
Foolio's killers? Man, they losing it for real. One of them straight up collapsed in court after the judge hit him with that heavy life sentence. And the rest? Let's just say they ain't holding it together neither. But here's the real tea. Was it just the sentence that broke him down? Word in the streets is they scared. Like, for real scared. Folks saying Foolio's people already waiting on the inside, ready to handle business. You all know I got all the details. Let's break it down.
Damn, that means they make it solid like that.
It was supposed to be just another sentencing. But what went down in that Florida courtroom on a hot, sticky June morning? Man, it left even the bailiff looking shook. The whole room went dead silent when one of Foolio's killers straight up collapsed. Body limp, hit the floor hard. Right after the judge hit him with life without parole, his mama screamed. The dude started bawling. Another co-defendant just sat there staring at the wall like he finally realized ain't no coming home. Not ever. But the wildest part, the one accused of actually pulling the trigger tried to fire his own lawyer and rep himself in a death penalty case. Yeah, you heard that right. This man staring down a needle and thought he was the best defense in a courtroom built to bury him alive. But before we show you all the collapse, the full breakdown of a cold-blooded killer, you gotta understand what led up to it. Because this ain't just about courtrooms and sentences. This is about Joolio Foolio, real name Charles Jones. He wasn't just some rapper. He was one of Jacksonville's most controversial, most feared voices in the streets. But let's not forget, he was still somebody's son. On June 22nd, Foolio was in Tampa, just trying to celebrate his birthday. By the early hours of June 23rd, he was gone, gunned down outside a hotel in what police say was a straight-up ambush. 3 men, moving like shadows, allegedly followed his every step through social media and GPS. When they caught him slipping, they let loose. At least 31 shots tore through his car. That wasn't no shootout. That was an execution. Surveillance footage later showed it all. 3 shooters creeping across the parking lot, rifles locked in, ready to squeeze. Foolio was sitting in the front passenger seat. He ain't even get a chance to run.
This is at the hotel, and you can see the shooters are getting in position for their planned out murder, and they are shooting at Charles now, and you can see that he's the passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at him. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle.
These dudes weren't stupid. Nah, they were calculated. They had been watching Foolio real close. They knew where he was headed, had the whole night mapped out. One of them, word is he was cool with Foolio's ex, and the other, a young girl named Alicia Andrews, pregnant at the time, was allegedly tailing Foolio all night. She followed him from club to club, moving like a spotter in some military mission, sending text after text to her people, dropping his exact location. Thing is, they weren't even seasoned street vets. Most of them barely out of high school, just kids caught up in grown man beef.
2 guys, 1 girl. The girl's pregnant currently.
No.
Which makes it even crazier. One of the guys, when they were arresting him, I guess he had a gun to his head. Did you hear this whole story?
Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he want to bring a Bible with him or some.
This crew, they range from just 18 to 30 years old, but they're being accused of pulling off one of the biggest rap murders we've seen in a minute. And now, the trial's going down right now. Some of them staring down the death penalty, and trust, the state ain't playing with them. Prosecutors already said it. They seriously considering taking it all the way. Lethal injection, no mercy.
These are all signs that things are gonna go very bad for them. Like, you got a girl in it, she's pregnant, he's suicidal, wants a Bible. It's not going good.
Not going good for who?
For the killer.
Now here's where it gets even darker. One of the main dudes, Rashad Murphy, he wildin', fired his own lawyer. Yeah, this man is facing a first-degree murder charge that could end with a needle in his arm, and he told the court,
I mean, they work for the court anyway, so it's like the fuck?
Everybody told him not to do it, but Rashad wasn't trying to hear it. He filed for a speedy trial and straight up asked to rep himself. On top of that, he wrote up these handwritten letters to the judge, saying they treating him like he's already guilty. Said he couldn't make no phone calls, couldn't send no letters, couldn't even get access to his legal papers to prep for his own defense. He was begging the court just to let him see his documents. Some folks think it's a strategy. Others, they say he's already cracking under pressure, folding under the weight of what he's accused of doing. And honestly, the evidence stacked up against him is looking real heavy.
It's not like they're gonna get off for this.
No, they got so much evidence against them. Like, when you go through it, you can pretty much just, pick a prison. Where do y'all want to go? It's not, you can't even come up with a defense for them.
Investigators weren't playing either. They came with receipts. They got weren't playing either. They came with receipts. They got ring camera footage showing the suspects loading up rifles into duffel bags, moving like they was going on a mission. They pulled GPS data from the suspects' phones, tracking every move Foolio made that night, every stop, every turn. They even uncovered text messages between the crew, talking about the hit before it even went down. And the shell casings they found at the scene, they matched the guns that were sitting right in the suspects' homes, looking airtight.
They found bullets in that kid's house. They found one of the murder weapons. They found bullets matching from the shooting scene. This kid kept collectibles from the case, like mad inside of his house.
As prosecutors started laying all this out in court, that pressure, it finally broke somebody. One of the defendants, sitting just feet away from Foolio's grieving mama, collapsed. Now, the cameras ain't catch it, but folks inside the courtroom said dude fell clean out his chair. He was shaking, gasping, mumbling, "I can't breathe." Was it fear? Was it guilt? Or was it that moment when it finally hit him? He might spend the rest of his life in a cold concrete box. Nobody knows for sure, but what is clear? The wall's closing in, fast. Let's stop right here for a second, because this ain't just about gang retaliation or rap beef gone sideways. This right here, this is about how the internet done turned real-life death into digital content, where disrespecting dead ops is just another way to boost streams, where moms out here scrolling YouTube only to find songs making fun of their child's murder. Foolio did it to others, and in the end, others did it to him. This cycle, it's deadly, and now it's cost 6 people everything. 1 man dead, 5 more facing life, and one of them, she pregnant. That baby might grow up only seeing their mama through glass. And we're not done. The evidence trail, it's even uglier than anybody expected. Turns out one of the suspects might have accidentally exposed all of them, just for a little bit of social media clout. So how did we even get here? Prosecutors say this wasn't no heat-of-the-moment thing. This was a coordinated, calculated hit. They say this started long before anybody pulled up in Tampa. We talking surveillance, group chats, out-of-town travel, multiple whips, and big rifles. This was planned like a mission, and it all started at home. Footage shows Rashad Murphy, Davian Murphy, and Sean Gathright packing up bags big enough to stash full-blown rifles, right in a regular neighborhood. What was in those bags? At least 2 military-style assault weapons. Where was this caught? Not from a snitch, not from the feds, their own surveillance camera.
Have evidence of the defendant's co-defendants very clearly meeting at Sean Gathbright's house on his video camera, where they are loading up big bags that are definitely big enough to hold these assault rifles that were used in this case.
One of the most disturbing parts, Foolio's final hours were basically live streamed by the man himself. He was on Instagram, posting clips from his birthday turn-up, showing where he was, who he was with, what he was doing, all while the people plotting on him were watching every move. Investigators say Alicia Andrews and Isaiah Chance, folks who were pretending to be cool with him, were really acting as lookouts. From the club, to the after party, to that hotel lot where it all ended. They was tracking him the whole time, acting friendly while setting him up.
Jones was in town celebrating his birthday and posted on his social media his locations several times throughout that night. Surveillance video was critical in this investigation, as suspects were seen on video following Jones from location to location.
The shooters didn't just roll up and start dumping. Nah, they parked across the street and waited. Watched, they were patient, moving like they had done this before. Then at 4:38 a.m., 3 of them slid out the car and crept toward the home 2 suites. They were strapped, 1 with a handgun, 2 with rifles, locked in and ready. Then they let it rip. 31 shots tore through Foolio's SUV. It was a straight ambush. No warning, no mercy. 3 other people were in that ride too. They got hit, but somehow by the grace of God, they survived.
This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims who miraculously survived this incident. It's clear from that video what they were set out to do and what they had planned to do.
But why, though? What could make 5 young people, including a pregnant woman, plan and carry out an execution-style hit in the middle of a public street? According to prosecutors and police, it all comes down to that same cycle: street revenge. They say one of the shooters had a brother, went by the name Spaz, who got killed by someone tied to Foolio's camp. And from there, it was on site. That loss lit the fuse, and they wanted blood back.
I think it had nothing to do with the murder. No, I mean, it's It's actually pretty ugly what happened, because one of the suspects, their brother, Spaz, was allegedly killed by one of Foolio's friends. Yeah. Foolio rapped about him, and I believe there's a video of him urinating on his grave.
There's multiple videos of Foolio dissing this. I mean, I don't think Theo personally pulled the trigger on Spaz or anything. But the truth, this whole thing got ugly. See, one of the suspects had a brother named Spaz, and word is someone from Foolio's crew was the one who took him out. And Theo? Man, he didn't just rap about it, he mocked it. He put it in music videos. There's even a clip where someone, allegedly Theo or his people, is seen pissing on Spaz's grave. That ain't music. That's a declaration of war. So these five, they didn't just roll out to Tampa to drop a diss track. They came with guns, bullets, burner phones, and a whole blueprint. But here's the twist. They wasn't slick about it. Matter of fact, they basically wrapped the evidence up with a bow and handed it to the police. Let's run it down. Alicia Andrews' phone was pinged from Jacksonville all the way to Tampa, hitting every location Theo touched that night. License plate readers caught the exact cars used in the ambush. Hotel surveillance cameras caught the crew moving in and out, right before and right after the hit. Forensics matched the shell casings from the crime scene to rifles they found in Rashad Murphy's house. One of these dudes even kept souvenirs, bullet fragments and shell casings, just sitting in his home like trophies. And if that wasn't enough, the text messages they found, some of them were straight up celebrating. One of them literally said, "I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched." That ain't just a message. That's a confession.
They were caught on license plate cameras. He used his mama's car. His mama said, "I had that car that my son had."
That's how bold they were with it. Rashad Murphy, especially, dude really thought he could outsmart the whole system. He tried to play slick, left his phone at home, but used everybody else's. Like the feds wasn't gonna piece that together.
That nigga said, hell no.
Wildest move yet. He told the court he wanted to represent himself. Even his own lawyer looked at the judge like, "Yo, this is straight madness." But Murphy stood on it. He said the jail conditions were so bad he couldn't even prep for his defense properly. And just when you thought that was the end of it, he pulled out another card, the insanity defense. Back in November, he told the court he was going that route. But here's the thing. Legally, that don't even make sense. You can't plead insanity when the evidence shows you spent days planning a hit, moving like a tactician, packing rifles, coordinating travel, sending play-by-play texts. That's not crazy. That's cold and calculated. That's the exact opposite of insane.
This guy's nuts. I think that's why. I mean, he wants to defend himself, which is insane in a death penalty case. And then he actually has said that he may use an insanity defense, which also is insane in itself when the facts show otherwise, that these guys had meticulous planning and attempts to cover up the crime. And when you have that, good luck in getting an insanity defense, because to sustain an insanity defense, you have to have an established medical condition, and you have to not know the difference between right and wrong. But when you meticulously plan and then try to cover up your tracks, that shows you knew the difference between right and wrong. It shows you knew what you did was illegal. And when you want to just try to put forward an insanity defense as your own lawyer, it doubles the level of difficulty.
So yeah, Murphy's whole defense, it might already be dead before it even gets moving. And if he keeps pushing to act as his own lawyer, he might end up incriminating his co-defendants in open court live. That's got folks around the other suspects seriously panicking, especially Alicia Andrews. See, she's the only one who didn't waive her right to a speedy trial. And legal analysts, they think she might be cooperating with the prosecutors. And honestly, it would make sense. She's young, she's pregnant. She might just want to see her baby grow up outside the walls. If she flips, those dominoes could start falling real fast. But don't get it twisted. This story ain't over yet. Inside their jailhouse meltdown, when prosecutors laid all their cards out on the table, it was obvious somebody talked, and the whispers, they all pointed in one direction: Alicia Andrews. Andrews was just 21, pregnant at the time of the murder, and facing the same first-degree murder charges as the dudes who actually pulled the trigger. But here's what made folks start connecting dots. While the others stalled and delayed, she did the exact opposite. She asked for a speedy trial. Now in the courtroom game, that ain't just a bold move, that's a message. To the DA, to the judge, to the other defendants, I'm not waiting. I'm not taking the fall. Legal experts been saying it since day one. That move right there could be a warning shot or a quiet signal that she's cooperating.
And they just recently did it where the girl isn't waiving her right to a speedy trial, and they believe she's going to cooperate.
I thought she was.
Actually, one of my members, Kilcon RL, mentioned that. He said Alicia Andrews, who's the girl who's pregnant, she asked for a speedy trial. The other three waived that. So yeah, I guess that means she's cooperating now.
But what really sealed it wasn't just the paperwork. It was what came next. Alicia Andrews sat down and gave a full interview to police right after her arrest. No lawyer, no stalling. She started talking. She admitted to being there, and she walked detectives through their entire trail across Tampa. Every move, every stop. Now, she ain't say who pulled the trigger, but honestly, she didn't have to. She gave up enough details to put the whole crew exactly where prosecutors needed them. That interview might have just handed the state the blueprint to build this entire case.
Alicia, the girl, she gave an interview with police right when she got picked up. So she's already spoke to them and confirmed, oh yeah,
I know exactly what happened.
Investigators went straight to her phone, pulled the GPS history, and it told the whole story. They tracked the crew's path from club to club, from the B&B to the hotel. Alicia might not have pulled the trigger, but she played the role of a modern-day recon scout, helping the killers follow their target both digitally and physically. It was like something out of a military op. Except this mission, it was reckless, it was senseless, and it left a man dead. But prosecutors ain't stopping at Alicia. In a move that's got defense attorneys shook, the court just approved something major. Prior gang-related killings can now be used as evidence, not just background noise, but to show clear motive in this case. That changes everything.
I do find, generally speaking, that this is evidence that does help create motive and intent and explain the crimes charged.
See, the court didn't just look at this like one isolated hit. Folio's murder wasn't random. It was the climax of a long brewing war between some of Jacksonville's most dangerous rap crews, 6 Block, ATK, and 1200. And this wasn't no rap battle type beef. This was body for body, real street wars, where every diss track, every grave insult, every IG live came with consequences. Disrespect got paid back in blood. Andrew's boyfriend, he was allegedly tied to one of them rival cliques, and one of the shooters, he had a brother who got killed in the same feud. That brother's grave desecrated in one of Foolio's music videos. Yeah, that kind of violation. And the judge didn't throw any of it out. They allowed all of it into the record. The gang ties, the prior murders, the disses, the grave disrespect. Because this ain't just about one night in Tampa. This is about a war that's been brewing for years.
This is something in Jacksonville that is very well known. These videos, both by our victim as well as by the rival gangs, are posted immediately. It's in the public domain, and it details this long-standing feud.
Even worse, some of the shooters gave themselves up without even knowing it. Let's talk about Rashad Murphy. You already know about his wild moves, trying to fire his lawyer, claim insanity, and rep himself in a death penalty case. But what really shocked prosecutors was what Rashad left behind. Surveillance cams from his own house caught him, and the others packing up bags big enough to stash the same type of rifles used in the hit. And it gets worse. Rashad was slick enough to leave his phone at home, but he used other people's phones instead. The state subpoenaed those phones and traced them all through Tampa. One of the killers even paid for stuff using a cash app card, and police tracked it all down with purchase history and IP data. And Rashad, he was riding in his mom's car, caught on camera. When they asked her about it, she said, "Yeah, my son had it. That was game over." But the coldest part? After the hit, one of them texted, "I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched."
That's the same guy who, after the murder, allegedly sent out a text, "I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched." Like, it was a mission for him. So, I mean, if we're talking about motive, that's classic Get Back, right? Hey, his people did something to my brother. They kept laughing about it. They desecrated his gravesite. This is a rapper who's been known.
Step into a market.
This is a rapper who's been known to make videos at gravesite or laugh at the dead. Now we get to laugh at it.
A declaration, a celebration, a confession. This whole tragedy wasn't just about 5 reckless people. It was about a culture that turned funerals into marketing and death into content. Foolio was part of it too. He mocked dead ops, filmed at their graves, and in doing so, he lit a fuse that ended with his own name on a toe tag. The shooters, just kids. One of them only 18, with a trail of alleged shootings dating back to age 17. What happened in 5 years that turned a boy on Twitch into a boy with a gun? Cops. They never stood a chance. The real tragedy, how preventable it all was. Social media became the new street corner, where threats come in captions and retaliation gets measured in likes and shares. Now Florida law enforcement is on edge. They believe this war ain't over. There's still people out there, people with guns, with grudges, and now with martyrs. But the state, they're drawing the line right here. They want this case to send the message from rap beef to life sentences. So what does it look like when a man watches his whole future disappear? When Hillsborough County brought those defendants into court one by one, reporters said it was like nothing they'd seen in years. This wasn't just a legal case, it was a reckoning. Sean Gathright, just 18, got told he'd spend the rest of his life behind bars. At first, he didn't flinch, but But then they laid it out. Surveillance footage, firearm forensics, texts, cash app receipts, every piece of evidence stacked around him like a wall. Witnesses said he slumped forward, eyes locked on the floor, mouthing the same words over and over. I ain't kill him. I ain't kill him. But in Florida, if you help plan a murder, even if you never touch the gun, you're just as guilty. And Sean, he wasn't just involved. He was caught on video prepping for the ambush. But it was Rashad Murphy who stole the show, for all the wrong reasons. Court started. Rashad stood up and fired his lawyer, again, despite every warning, judge, lawyer, even the prosecutor, telling him it was a catastrophic mistake. Rashad insisted on representing himself. It was like watching someone try to do surgery on themselves with a butter knife. Live in court. He blamed jail conditions, said he couldn't send mail, couldn't call his lawyer, couldn't even prep his case. In a handwritten letter, he told the judge he was being treated like he was already guilty, but the courtroom wasn't buying it. To go to trial in Florida, especially in a death penalty case, you gotta be found mentally competent. And Rashad, he wasn't helping himself. He had already hinted at an insanity defense, even though prosecutors say he helped carry out one of the most calculated murders they'd ever seen. That contradiction alone killed any chance at leniency. Then came the collapse. As Rashad stood alone trying to cross-examine his own fate, he froze. His knees buckled. He dropped right to the floor. One bailiff rushed in, another called a medic. His mama screamed from the gallery. The judge called a recess. No cameras caught it, but witnesses say Rashad broke down completely, trembling, sobbing, as the weight of that life sentence crushed him in real time. And while all that was going down, Foolio's mama sat in the front row, silent. She had watched people disrespect her son, blame him, dissect him, even say he brought it on himself. But later she told reporters he was still my son, and he didn't deserve to die on his birthday. She'd seen the videos, she'd read the comments. But in that courtroom, all she had left to hold on to was the court's justice.
Let's not lose sight of the fact that there are innocent victims in every homicide case, the loved ones who are left behind. His fans knew him as Joolio, but to his mom, he's Charles. We're fighting to make sure that she gets justice.
But even justice felt cold, because what nobody talks about, what don't trend on Twitter, what don't go viral on TikTok, is what happens after the shooting stops, after the sentencing, when mothers go home alone, replaying that surveillance video in their head over and over, when a child grows up visiting their mama through a thick glass window, all because she followed a man who chased fame by chasing bodies. This case is the perfect tragedy of our time. Clout killed Foolio, loyalty buried the suspects, and TikTok turned it into entertainment. But there's one more chilling layer. Investigators now believe Youngline Ace, Foolio's biggest rap rival, might have known about the hit in real time. And in a twist nobody saw coming, DJ Academics revealed that police were kicking down doors, executing arrest raids at the same exact time he was live, interviewing Youngline Ace.
The moment Youngin Ace was sitting with me for the interview, the cops were raiding the guys. The exact moment. Everybody who got locked up for the murder, the three simultaneous arrests happened exactly when he's talking to me. And I think, I don't know what his perspective is now, but his perspective is then, and maybe he just doesn't know anything. He was like, hey, no, don't come on this.
Whether Ace knew anything for sure is still unclear, but the symbolism? Yeah, nobody missed that, and neither did they miss what he was sipping on. A bottle of Don Joolio sat right there on the table beside him, his drink of choice. Intentional or just a cold coincidence, the message hit hard. Don Joolio, Foolio, toasted online. Now all we can do is wait. The trials are still moving. Alicia Andrews is expected to be the first to face a jury this year. Rashad Murphy's solo act might end in disaster or a last-minute plea deal. And the gang war that sparked all this? Yeah, it's still breathing. Cops are already on edge, bracing for retaliation. As one sheriff said, it ain't over.
And unfortunately, I think the young people think this is a game. And,
I think it's a fucking game. We just don't fuck with y'all.
They make it like it's a video game. It's not. This is real life. So he has a mother, he has parents, siblings, probably friends. And
but y'all don't say that when y'all be killing our own people.
It's unfortunate. Now the next thing is
the police be killing black people. Y'all don't say that shit. Y'all be going against police and shit.
Any revenge. We're gonna watch. We're gonna be around, paying attention to what's going on. But it's unfortunate. It should never happen to our kids. And I've never seen so much devaluing of human life. It's like it's fun, and they talk about it in rap videos and songs, and it just doesn't make any sense.
This case, it was never really about rap. It was about power, revenge, ego, and who gets the last post. Yeah, the courtroom spoke. But in a world where music videos feel like murder diaries and funerals get live streamed for clicks, who's really listening? If you felt this, go ahead and tap the next video on your screen. We got more just like this. Real stories, real truth.
The threat of the death penalty made Foolio's killers crack. According to reports, they apologized.
We shouldn't have
did that. We shouldn't have traveled all the way to Jacksonville to Tampa to go kill Joolio Foolio.
But that was just the start. They gave up everything to investigators, including how they carried out the shooting.
He puts out his arms like this, and it appears that he's brandishing a rifle.
And right in the middle of it all, they name-dropped a famous rapper. Yeah, things just got explosive. Let me break it down. When the streets meet the courtroom, the manhunt that followed Foolio's murder was intense. Law enforcement agencies across Florida were working around the clock to identify and capture the suspects. And when those arrests finally started coming down, it was like watching dominoes fall one by one. On July 27, 2024, Isaiah Chance, 21, Alicia Andrews, 21, and Sean Gathright, 18, were arrested in Jacksonville. But the story didn't end there. Rashad Murphy, 30, was apprehended after a standoff on July 29, 2024, and the final suspect, Davian Murphy, 27, wasn't arrested until January 6, 2025, after months on the run. Now here's where this story gets absolutely crazy. When these suspects were brought in for questioning, they started doing things that even seasoned detectives couldn't believe. Let me paint you a picture of what went down in that interrogation room with Davion Murphy.
He puts out his arms like this, and it appears that he's brandishing a rifle with one hand extended and one, what I would consider the trigger finger. He starts walking around the interview room after he gets out of his seat, and this is after Detective Nieder and I had left, and he's holding it like this in front of him, and then he starts going, go, 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 go. And then he walks around, and then he does it again, and he does it multiple times.
Y'all, this dude literally got up in the interrogation room and started demonstrating how he shot Foolio, complete with sound effects and everything. The detectives had left the room, but the cameras were still rolling, and this fool thought it was a good idea to reenact a murder. The streets were calling this the most self-incriminating evidence they'd ever seen, but it gets even worse for these suspects. When interrogating Isaiah Chance, the police made their feelings about Foolio crystal clear.
What do you know about Foolio? Let's start from there. I think he's a piece of I watched all those videos. I went down that rabbit hole. Yeah, we all did. I got jokers desecrating graves. He is asking to be killed. There's no doubt about it. It was inevitable. I can't believe it took this many years for somebody to kill him.
That's
honest to God.
Now, while that might shock some people, it shows you how deep this gang beef had gotten, and how even law enforcement was aware of the dangerous game Foolio was playing with his life. The detectives weren't justifying the murder, but they were acknowledging the reality of the street life Foolio had chosen. The evidence against these suspects was overwhelming. Detectives used footage from the scene, license plate readers, and phone logs to identify two vehicles and link them back to the suspects. But here's the kicker. When they searched Sean Gathright's car, they found ammunition that matched rounds from when Foolio was shot 2 years prior.
Fuck about us, man.
This dude had been carrying around evidence of a previous attempt on Foolio's life for 2 years. As one commentator
I forgot he did that.
He couldn't even go clean his car. So the rounds that he allegedly used to shoot Foolio 2 years before was still in his car. So in 2 years, I guess
still in his car after 2 years.
Because the rounds were still in the car.
The level of carelessness these suspects displayed was absolutely mind-blowing. They thought
from
they
the
were
other hit job he
they
had.
were leaving evidence everywhere they went. When the arrests were announced, it was a major moment for both Tampa and Jacksonville law enforcement.
For all the victims, including the mother of Charles Jones, who traveled from Jacksonville this morning to be present for this announcement. Today I stand before Tampa Police Major Pat Messmer, Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters, and Hillsborough State Attorney Susie Lopez to announce the arrest of 3 people in the deadly shooting of Charles Jones, also known by his stage name of Joolio Foolio. In addition, we have warrants and are actively searching for 2 other individuals in this case.
All 5 suspects were charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder, facing potential life sentences or even the death penalty. The coordination between the suspects was extensive, showing this wasn't some spontaneous act of violence, but a carefully planned execution. The roles each suspect played started becoming clear through the investigation. Isaiah Chance and Alicia Andrews were identified as lookouts who tracked Foolio's movements across Tampa, including at Teaser's Gentlemen's Club and Truth 18 nightclub. Meanwhile, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davion Murphy were alleged to be the actual shooters. But here's where the story takes another shocking turn. The investigation revealed connections that went even deeper than anyone initially realized. Court documents show that J. Breezy, a rapper affiliated with the 1200 gang, allegedly sent a $390 payment via Cash App to Isaiah Chance on June 22nd, 2024, which was used to book an Airbnb. This payment potentially helped facilitate the murder plot, though J. Breezy hasn't been charged as of yet. The gang affiliations of the suspects painted a clear picture of the street politics at play. Rashad Murphy was documented as a member of the ATK gang, while Isaiah Chance was affiliated with 1200. These weren't random criminals. They were soldiers in a war that had been raging for years. The surveillance footage that prosecutors had was damning.
Surveillance video was critical in this investigation, as suspects were seen on video following Jones from location to location. This shows the lengths that these individuals were willing to go through and achieve that this murder would occur. At 4:15 in the morning, Jones began to head to a hotel on McKinley. One of the suspect vehicles is seen following the victim. However, instead of following them into a parking lot, they stage across the street.
The actual moment of the murder was captured on camera, and when prosecutors showed that footage in court, it was devastating.
This is at the hotel, and you can see the shooters are getting in position for their planned out murder. And they are shooting at Charles now, and you can see that he's a passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at him. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle.
The bond hearings for these suspects were intense affairs. No bond was granted for any suspect, with judges recognizing the severity of the charges and the danger these individuals posed to the community. When Davion Murphy finally faced his bond hearing in January 2025, the denial was swift and decisive. But perhaps the most telling moment came when details about the suspects' personal lives started emerging. Alicia Andrews revealed she was pregnant, which immediately changed the dynamics of her case. This revelation would prove crucial in what happened next, because pregnancy in the county jail while facing murder charges creates a whole different set of pressures and incentives. The investigation also revealed just how deep the planning went. The conspiracy to murder Jones spanned June 21st, 2024, with suspects traveling from Jacksonville to Tampa on June 22nd, 2024.
How far a drive is that? 2 hours?
Crime of passion. It was a military-style operation with multiple moving parts. Social media played a huge role in the case as well. Foolio posted on his social media his location several times throughout that night, essentially giving his killers a roadmap to follow. The digital age had made it easier than ever for predators to track their prey. The community impact was enormous. Sheriff T.K. Waters made it clear that Florida would not tolerate this type of violence.
In closing, I want to directly speak to those who choose violence and those who embrace a culture that glorifies violence. Florida, Tampa, JSO, Jacksonville, Miami, wherever you are, will not tolerate foolishness.
Man, y'all some pussies, because y'all don't do nothing when y'all police officers be trying to kill black people.
The prosecution was equally determined to send a message. Why y'all said your own people, pussy? Made it clear that everyone involved would face consequences.
The feud stops here. All 5 of these defendants are facing life in the Florida State Prison, even the ones who didn't pull the trigger. In Florida, if you participate in the planning of a murder, you can be held accountable for the person's death. And that is what we intend to do here.
As the cases moved forward, it became clear that the prosecution had built an absolutely devastating case against all 5 suspects. The evidence was overwhelming, the planning was undeniable, and the executions of the crime were captured on multiple cameras. These young people had made decisions that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Let me give you details of the decision and death that got them here. The night everything changed. Let's set the scene. Jacksonville has been dealing with a deadly gang war for over a decade, and at the center of it all was Charles Andrew Jones II, better known to the world as Joolio Foolio. This young brother wasn't just any rapper. He was deep in the streets, repping the 6 Block Gang, part of the KTA network, which stands for Kill Them All. And trust me, that name wasn't just for show. Foolio's life was marked by violence from day one. His father, Charles Andrew Jones, was murdered in a 2011 shooting in Jacksonville, setting the stage for a cycle of retaliation that would eventually claim his own life. Growing up in the Moncrief neighborhood, Foolio wasn't just making music about the streets, he was the streets. His albums like Life of Me, Final Destination, and Resurrection weren't just artistic expressions, they were documentaries of real street beef. The beef that would ultimately cost Foolio his life started heating up in 2017 when his 18-year-old cousin, Zion Malik Brown, was shot and killed, an event that escalated the gang war to deadly proportions. This wasn't just some rap beef for social media clout. This was real smoke between 6 Block and their rivals ATK, Ace's Top Killers, and 1200 out east. Foolio had survived multiple attempts on his life before that fatal night. In July 2020, he was shot and wounded in Houston, Texas. And in October 2023, he was shot in the foot while driving in Jacksonville. But the young rapper wasn't backing down. He claimed he shot back in self-defense during the Houston incident, keeping it real about the street code he lived by. Now, June 23rd, 2024, was supposed to be a celebration. Foolio was turning 26, and he was in Tampa, Florida, ready to party and enjoy his birthday. But the streets had other plans. The incident occurred in the early morning hours around 4:40 a.m. after he and his group were asked to leave an Airbnb for exceeding occupancy limits. What happened next was straight out of a movie, but this wasn't Hollywood. This was real life with real consequences. 3 assailants armed with a pistol equipped with a high-capacity magazine, firing over 30 times, and 2 rifles with brass catchers opened fire. The attack was so vicious that it left 3 others wounded, but miraculously, they survived. But here's where it gets really deep. This wasn't some random drive-by or spur-of-the-moment beef. The Tampa Police Department released surveillance video showing suspects following Foolio from location to location before the shooting, proving this was a calculated, premeditated hit. These dudes weren't playing around. They tracked him like hunters stalking their prey. The driver of Foolio's car, who survived the attack, gave a heartbreaking account of those final moments.
I heard him take his last, bro. We got to the hotel, he went in, checked in, and they told him that the rooms had already been taken. So he came back to the car. He was on his phone trying to find a hotel. I'm just on point watching everything.
So this nigga would drop up in the scat pack
for like a split second. Then something just ain't feel right. So as soon as I look up, I just see shooters. I just kept telling him to duck. I ain't really hear him say really, cause the gunfire was so loud. So it was just like I ain't really hear him say nothing. I already knew when I started the car. You feel me? Cause he wasn't responding. I heard him take his last, bro.
That testimony right there hits different. Imagine being right there, hearing your homie take his last breath while bullets are flying everywhere. The raw emotion in that survivor's voice tells you everything you need to know about how real this situation was. Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkaw made it clear that the motive was retaliation by rival gang members, specifically ATK and 1200, as part of the ongoing feud with 6 Block. This wasn't just about music or social media posts. This was about a decade-long war that had already resulted in dozens of music or social media posts. This was about a decade-long war that had already resulted in dozens of murders. The investigation that followed was nothing short of impressive. Law enforcement used everything from surveillance footage to cell tower data to piece together exactly what happened that night. Court documents detail a coordinated plan rooted in a gang feud, with surveillance footage, cell phone data, and physical evidence, like rifle casings, tying the suspects to the crime. But here's what makes this case even crazier. The suspects weren't some hardened criminals who knew how to cover their tracks. These were young dudes who made mistake after mistake, leaving a trail of evidence that would eventually lead right back to them. One suspect had shell casings in his car from a previous attempt on Foolio's life 2 years earlier, showing just how sloppy
he had the cases in his car for 2 years.
The community's reaction was immediate and intense. Social media exploded with reactions, condolences, and speculation. But what really caught people's attention were posts suggesting Foolio might have faked his death based on posthumous activity on his Instagram. However, official reports, including his burial on July 6, 2024 at Edgewood Cemetery, confirmed his passing, putting those conspiracy theories to rest. The impact on the Jacksonville rap scene was devastating. As one commenter on social media put it, these suspects had essentially killed the Jacksonville drill scene with their actions. The music that had put the city on the map was now overshadowed by real violence that claimed one of its brightest stars. Law enforcement wasn't playing around either. Sheriff T.K. Waters and Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkaw emphasized a strong stance against gang-related violence, with Burkaw making it clear that Tampa wasn't the place to come settle disputes. The message was loud and clear. If you brought that street beef to their city, you were going to face the full force of the law. The investigation was just beginning, but the streets were already talking. Word was spreading that arrests were coming. And when they did, the details that would emerge would shock everyone. The suspects thought they had pulled off the perfect hit, but they had no idea that their every move had been captured, their every communication recorded, and their every mistake cataloged by investigators who were building an airtight case. This wasn't just about solving one murder. This was about sending a message to every gang member in Florida that the days of settling beefs with bullets were over. The state was ready to seek the ultimate punishment, and as we'll see in the next part, when those arrests finally came down, the suspects' reactions would reveal just how unprepared they were for the consequences of their actions. The stage was set for one of the most dramatic court cases in recent memory, where street codes would collide with legal consequences, and where the truth about what really happened that night would finally come to light. But the biggest shock was yet to come. As the pressure mounted and the reality of their situation set in, some of these suspects began to crack under the weight of potentially facing the death penalty. And when they did, the revelations that would emerge would expose not just the details of Foolio's murder, but the entire network of violence and retaliation that had been plaguing Jacksonville for years. The death penalty changes everything. The bomb dropped when the state filed motions seeking the death penalty for Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, and Rashad Murphy, but notably not for Alicia Andrews. This decision would prove to be the catalyst that unraveled everything these suspects thought they knew about loyalty and street codes.
The prosecuting
attorney down there in Tampa, Florida, has filed a motion seeking the death penalty. Yeah, the death penalty. That boy Rashad Murphy, death penalty. Gathright, death penalty. What's the other boy named? Chance, Guttaze, death penalty. It's over with. The only person that's not getting the death penalty, the only person that the prosecuting attorney has hasn't filed a motion seeking the death penalty, and that's for Alicia.
Now, why wasn't Alicia Andrews facing the death penalty when everyone else was? The answer lies in a combination of factors that would prove crucial to understanding how this case would unfold. Andrews was revealed to be pregnant, and according to street analysts, this gave her powerful incentives to cooperate with authorities.
When that girl came out and said she was pregnant, oh my dude. You in the county jail under a murder charge and you pregnant? Y'all, that right there gave her all the incentives in the world to say, hey, you know what, look, I need to tell y'all the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
The pressure that Andrews faced was unlike anything the male suspects were dealing with. She had victim advocate programs reaching out, family members in her ear, and the reality of potentially giving birth behind bars while facing life in prison. As one hood commentator explained,
do y'all understand how many victim advocate programs been contacting her, trying to talk to her and saying, hey, you know, you got a baby, do you want to give your baby up for adoption? Hey, you got a baby, you need to think about your baby. You can't just go to jail like these guys right here. You got a child to think about. You got to raise the child.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Andrews had already been talking, even if she didn't realize how damaging her statements were.
See, now, one thing we got to realize is that she already done did some snitching. But, you know, some of us, you know, you might just say, well, yeah, she might have did a little slip of the tongue, because she wasn't thinking right and all that.
Well, she gave it all up.
It's like she already done did this.
Yeah, she had diarrhea.
She already done put them at the scene of the murder crime.
Yeah. Analysis suggests that Andrews may not have fully understood the gravity of the situation.
You can't trust no hoe when you're doing a murder. They gonna snitch on the bad.
From a street perspective,
I don't think that she really understood the gravity of what was going on.
Now she knew.
And that's why when they sat her down to talk about what had happened, she had no problem with, you know, just telling them the truth. Yeah, that's us. When they showed her the video footage, yeah, that's us right there. We driving past the hotel room. Yeah, that's us right there. We doing this, we doing that.
Meanwhile, the violence in Jacksonville didn't stop with Foolio's murder. The chain reaction that followed would prove just how deep
a lot of motherfuckers died.
War really was. On January 24th, 2025, 7-year-old boy, Brayan Dus Allen Jr., was killed.
Yeah, he did die.
Critically wounded in a shooting linked to the 6 Block and ATK feud. This tragic incident showed that the cycle of violence was far from over. The shooting was motivated by a rap song dissing 6 Block and referencing Foolio, proving that even in death, Foolio's name was still being used to fuel more violence. But back to the main case. The death penalty announcements created a completely different dynamic in the county jail where these suspects were being held.
Now, another thing we got to understand is this right here. Being that the prosecution is seeking the death penalty, they got bargain chips now.
All them other participants that's laying in the weeds, acting like they ain't did nothing and all that old type of stuff, they scared for right now.
The psychological impact on these young suspects was devastating.
And can you just imagine? These is kids, y'all. These is 20-year-old
right.
boys.
The police don't give a fuck about us.
Y'all imagine the mental mind state right now of all them boys that's in there right now. Think, damn, they want to kill us?
Right.
Yeah, they seeking the death penalty.
They don't give a fuck. Them crackers don't give a fuck about us, nigga. What we go through, our pain, what really happened,
it's different.
What cycle
it's
we in.
Way different.
You know what I'm saying?
When you just facing a murder charge, you think to yourself, you know what? Dang, I gotta go through life. I can do my time, but at least I'm still alive. I can go see my family.
But death row is a completely different beast.
You still got life, but death row ain't like that. Totally different world.
Sometimes that death row can take 20 to 30 years, though.
To kill you, so there's a difference.
The prosecution's strategy was becoming clear. Use the death penalty as leverage to get these suspects to reveal everything about the broader conspiracy. The evidence against all the suspects.
Yeah, all you can do is just pray to Yahweh.
The prosecution had surveillance videos, cell tower data, text messages, and physical evidence that created what experts were calling a slam dunk case. One particularly damaging piece of evidence was a text message from Rashad Murphy, boasting after the murder. "I'm coming home, my thirst is quenched. Pop a bottle of Don Joolio today, Murphy," showing not only his involvement, but his celebration of the killing. The expectation among street observers was that Andrews would eventually take the stand and provide details.
But she like Rango. That lizard Rango bitch. She like Rango.
The investigation was expected to reveal a broader network of people who helped plan, finance, or facilitate the murder. Questions remained about J. Breezy's alleged $390 payment to Isaiah Chance and whether other rappers or gang members were involved in the conspiracy. The legal proceedings moved forward with trials tentatively scheduled for Andrews in August 2025 and Gathright, Chance, and Rashad Murphy in April 2026. But the street was buzzing with speculation that these cases might not make it to trial if suspects started cooperating to avoid execution. The broader message being sent was clear. The days of settling disputes with violence were over, at least in terms of getting away with it. One of the most important lessons emerging from this case was the reality that even snitches don't just walk free.
Snitches go to prison.
Yeah.
Somebody better tell y'all something. Snitches don't just get out of jail
and
stuff like that. Unless, you know, dealing with drugs and stuff like that, yeah, you might get that because, you know, somebody dealing with property, drugs, or you get caught with a gun, then you can say, let me go work for you and stuff like that. Then you might, but when you commit a crime against a person, murder, aggravated robbery and all that, you can do all the snitching you want. Your ass is still
jail, bitch. And you might die in jail.
The ultimate fate of these 5 suspects remains to be determined.
At the end of the day, bitch, you might as well keep it solid, because they gonna try to kill you anyway. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Tell these
family
niggas, man.
members and friends who will be affected by the consequences. The streets might have their own code of justice, but when that code collides with the legal system doesn't play by street rules. The death penalty represents the ultimate consequence, and for these young suspects, the reality of potentially facing execution has changed everything about how they're approaching their cases. Whether Andrews will ultimately testify against her co-defendants, whether any of the male suspects will break and provide information about the broader conspiracy, and whether justice will truly be served for Foolio and his family, these questions will be answered in the months and years to come. But one thing is certain, this case has sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community and served as a stark reminder that the glorification of street violence in music can have real-world consequences that extend far beyond the recording studio. The cycle of violence
that claimed Foolio's life. If you gonna do some crazy ass shit,
5 suspects continues to plague
you might have to go to the Bermuda Triangle at these times,
more
nigga.
young lives will be lost.
Go Colombia, bitch.
Destroyed, and more promising
go to
futures will be
Antarctica,
cut short
bitch.
by the false promise that violence can solve problems. The choice, as always, remains with each individual. Continue down
go
the
to
path of violence,
Afghanistan,
face
bitch,
the
or Africa.
or choose a different way and build a life that doesn't end in a courtroom facing the death penalty. For Foolio, that choice came too late. For these 5 suspects, the consequences of their choices are just beginning to unfold. And for everyone watching this tragedy play out, the lesson is clear. In the end, the streets
R.I.P. Foolio and all the victims that done been down in this beach in Florida. Because there's way more people than died, man.
Back. Man, like I said, man, these are killers for dummies. A lot of these niggas was snitching on themselves on the internet. You know what I'm saying? It's like they was trying to get caught. These niggas kept bullet shells in their car for over 2 years. They ain't clean their car out. The fuck, nigga? You don't go to clean your car? They keeping inventory like Minecraft heads and shit. Like, this shit was getting dumb. She snitching since they first got caught. They snitching on their own stuff. Niggas falling out. Dead police getting flown everywhere. Bruh, this court is getting insane. So we all gonna see what's gonna happen with the death penalty and the life, sentence to life and all this shit, man. Make sure you like and subscribe. We out this bitch. Hood, Northside, Big Crip, and the gang Northside shit, man.
Hey, Dad, you know, dog, when we link up, dog, this shit be legendary. You know this instrumental, you the engineer on it, so Kodak everywhere.